Good evening, Ross. How are you doing?
Not so bad. An emotional start to the show, eh?
Very poignant. Yes, yes. We thought we'd do that. It relates to our first guest that's coming on this evening in a wee while, and a project he worked on. And we thought, there's Joseph Fu. Can I just apologise, everyone? We had a little technical difficulty just with some internet, but we're here now. Thank you for so many patient people out there. There's a huge number of people watching tonight. Thank you very much. We're live on Facebook, on Tartan Tunes, Tunes in the House, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. So please share it about, and we'll get on to you. Now, obviously, this is our kind of Burns special tonight. So, as I said, that wee intro was to take us into the theme of things. We've got two fantastic guests on for you. So I'm really, really looking forward to this. It's going to be a great night. We've got Gray O'Brien, the actor, on, who's going to recite some Burns and tell us about that project and various other things that he's worked on. And we also have Roddy Matthews from Northumberland on, that expert fiddle player. Lovely man and a great historian, especially of his area. So I'm really looking forward to having Roddy on as well. I think it'll be great tonight, Ross.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Ross, can I just ask you, there's a couple of people asked what the tune was tonight that we've made our theme tune. Can you tell them the name of that one?
No, the theme tune that we've got on's a tune that I wrote for my mum's Christmas present. A tune called Bruno, after our late dog that passed away at the end of last year. So a wee tune for her. Right?
A wee 6/8, a wee nice 6/8. So Ross recorded that, emailed it up to me on my phone, and I stuck it into my studio and stuck the rest on there. So we had a wee bit of fun with that. So anyway, so nice to see so many people tonight. This is our Burns special. So I'm going to start off with a set of Burns marches tonight. That's what I'm on.
What you got? What's on?
What are we on? We're starting off with the Starry Rabbie Burns, which is really much newer than him. And then we're going to go into, what are we going into? There Was a Lad. Then we're going to do Duncan Gray. And then I'm going to do My Love, She's But a Lassie Yet. And I'm finishing off with The Deal's Away with Exciseman.
Oh, thanks.
So there we go.
Great.
Can I get more Burns than that? So we shall take it away from there. Here we go.
Take it away, Peter. Take it away, boy.
Good stuff. There we go.
Very good. What a great start, Peter. What a fantastic start.
Some Burns mastering to get up here.
Good stuff.
Good.
Well, I'm gonna go straight into mine if you don't mind.
That sounds.
And I'm gonna play Ye Bonny Banks and Braes of Doon as a bit of a slow air, and then go into A Man's a Man for Other.
Great. Good. Woo! Excellent, sir. Folks, somebody messaged me in there and said they're hearing a wee echo. I'm sorry, folks, I don't know what's happening. It's just my internet that's doing it, but it's not doing it now, I don't think. Nope, it's stopped again. There we go. Fantastic, Ross. Thank you for that. Couple of tunes. Great to see so many folk from all over the world joining us tonight. This is a fantastic show of people. And somebody even pointed out that they noticed I made a mistake in the first tune that I played. I did. But there we go. That's it. I covered it. Not bad. So, so obviously with Burns Night on tonight, we're going through some of the stuff. And it's quite an incredible, huge topic to get involved with. But that was some Burns tunes for everybody there. And that's great. Listen, I think. What do you think? Will we bring our first guest on since we'll leave it there?
Yes, absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just before we bring our guest on, we'll play you this little video to set the tone and the flavour for what's happening.
Gareth whatever title suit thee, old Orny, Satan, Nigger, Flutie, Tamosan, John Callan, Gremram, Sooty, closed under hand, Blair, Design, Brunson, Cootie, Scud, Moor, Wretches.
Poems, chiefly in the Scottish dialect, by Robert Burns.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like you to welcome Gray O'Brien to the screen.
Hello,
Gray.
Hello
How you
there.
doing? You all
I
right?
could hear that there. So I believe was there
Okay.
some vocal on that? Was there? I could see the pictures, but anyway, you are both sounding great. I'm enjoying this tonight. This is a new thing for me. Welcome everybody, and happy Burns Eve.
Yeah, it's great.
But
Gray, tell us, we've got an enormous amount of people watching all over the world tonight, which is absolutely fantastic.
Hello there.
Occasionally, you'll get little comments like this coming up saying hello for America and all that.
Hello
kind
for
of stuff.
USA.
And it's all good fun. And people pop in with wee things and say hello, and which is magic. So, tell us a wee bit about yourself, Gray. You're an actor. You're the first Scottish actor we've had on the show.
Oh well, I'm honoured. I'm honoured, and I'm in Scotland. I'm not that far from Ross, but
Yep.
What can I tell you? I'm an actor. I've been doing this on my puff, and Burns is a big part of, or it used to be a big part of the thing. You know, you're very busy for a week every year. And I used to do a bunch of Burns suppers going back a number of years, and we never particularly, we always did shows where we would portray the story of Burns. And one year we might concentrate Jean Armour, one night we might concentrate something else. One year, we did the meeting with Robert Burns and Johnny Walker for Diageo. It was a private Burns night, and Brian Cox, he played Johnny Walker, so that was great fun, you know. And we've had some great people doing it, very popular, and that was all Americans, big Texans that had flown over to be, and I think we did it in Glamis Castle, did it in Glamis, did it in Stirling, did it in Edinburgh. They do like a castle for their Burns.
Yeah. The thing was that you grew up in Kilmarnock, didn't you? Am I right in saying that?
I did. I grew up in a wee place outside Kilmarnock called Stewarton. And that's where I was brought up. And I went to school in Kilmarnock, and that's where, of course, the big monument is. And it was just across from my school, the Joes. I don't know if that's the Dean Park or the K Park. I think it might be the K Park. But used to pass that every day, going down the town for lunch. But that's where I went to school, yes, Kilmarnock.
Yeah. So you were always interested in acting, even at school, then?
Yes, I think when you're a kid and they go around the class and ask you what you want to be, and you say I want to be a box player or a piper or a panel beater, and I wanted to be an actor. There you go.
Nobody ever says that. Nobody ever says
that. What can I say? I'm a split screen with three guys. One's a piper and one's a box player, right? So,
yeah. I know. If you said you were wanting to be a box player, that you got.
Never said I wanted to be a box player. But my mother, funnily enough, tells me, my late mother, she's passed now, but she did tell a story that she nearly bought an accordion for me, because she wanted me to learn this accordion years and years and years ago when I never knew about it. You know, I think it came up, there was a chance that she could get it, and it fell through or something. But she'd always loved my uncle Dodie. He was for Glasgow. I think he was in Australia for a number of years, but he played the accordion.
Right.
Uncle Dodie. And my mother, she used to do a bit of Highland dancing with him playing in the box.
Okay. And when you left school, you went to what is now the Royal Conservatoire.
I think it's called the Conservatoire now. It was the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. That's what it was.
Yes.
Big mouthful. Yeah.
Was that a 4-year course, degree course? Then?
3 years. 3 years. The diploma. They didn't do a degree course at that stage. In fact, they might have just started the degree course. I think David Tennant, I don't know if you heard of him. He's an actor. He's not done much, but he was in the year below me, and I think that was the first degree year. They started doing that kind of teaching course, but of course he was never teaching. He was a star for the first year.
And can you tell us how have you found? Has it been good? Has it been a good road to travel down? Has work always come along plentifully and things
No, it's
like that?
a very tough industry, and
Yeah.
I think if you've had a modicum of success, it looks easy or it looks desirable. But the truth of the matter is that it's very tough. I mean, I don't know what it is for musicians, but I think for actors it's something like 96% or something of unemployment. And particularly what's happening just now, of course, our industry is pretty much decimated at the moment, as you'll understand, for the lack of live gigs and stuff. But it's a very difficult game, and a lot of people try it out and give it up, and it's difficult to make a living. I had maybe 10 or 15 maybe years absolutely flying high and everything was fine. And then something happens and you just don't become flavour of the month so much, and you just don't get those as much work as you would like. And I've had to diversify and do other things, and for a number of years I was doing a lot of theatre. Unfortunately, we're not doing any of that at the moment, but I was doing a lot of big tours, #1 tours around the UK. I did that maybe 4 or 5 years, but you're nipping back in and a bit of TV and a bit of this and a bit of that. But it's a great industry, but it's a difficult industry. There's just so many of us. It's a bit saturated.
We had a guest on a few weeks ago, and he mentioned, I talked about, with COVID and things like going backwards, like how much is that like put back the word of mouth side of your music? And he said that his whole career came from one gig, and it all went from there. And it was one gig that he pushed back for about 4 years, and then eventually he did it, and then he ended up all over the world doing this. So I think that's a very common thing with how musicians work. You do one very good gig, and then you spring off that for the next year after that, and you network with these sort of circles.
Yeah.
So I think
it's slightly different for us. I have to say, we're at the disposal of casting directors, the dreaded casting director, and they make the decision. They often play God, because a breakdown comes out for a show, and there's a bunch of actors. They'll say, well, we need this kind of actor, or this age, or this look, or whatever, or this nationality, or whatever. And if that casting director doesn't choose to put your name on the list, that's it. You don't get seen. So you put your faith in that, and we don't go touting for work ourselves. We've got agents, and
And you've done stage and television and film. A favourite? Have you got a favourite? Is there something you like doing? Or?
I have to say, I've done quite a bit of soap. I've probably done. I did four years, I think, in River City, and I did 3 years on Coronation Street. And I like that discipline, because it's very busy, and it's a very fast turnover. And we all like to be busy. It's entertainers. We're in a weird business because we love our work, and a lot of people don't love their work, and they just want the whistle to go at the end of the day. They want to get to the end, whereas we always want to do a bit more. I'll do an extra line. I'll have that solo. So I like that discipline.
You were a kind of baddie in Coronation Street, weren't you? When you were kind of.
I think they call it the villain. Yes, I was the villain, and great. They're the best parts to play, the baddies.
When we were watching bits and pieces last night, Titanic. You done the one about Titanic.
Yes, that was a great show, and it was all about the history of the building of the ship and what was happening in Ireland at the time. And our film finished. It was a 10-part mini-series, and we finished as we go for the maiden voyage. As we walk up that gangplank, that was the end of the story. So, we didn't hit the iceberg or anything, but it was all about how long it took. I mean, it took 12 years to build, and all the stuff with the metal and the metallurgists and all that stuff. And it was a great fun. We shot it all. We shot it in Dublin and Croatia. I think we did Serbia, actually. We were in Serbia for about 8 weeks. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. The bit of film we showed at the beginning, even though you weren't getting sound at your end, was that a project you done? And Mick McNeil done some music for you in that one, didn't he, or something?
So there was a there was a play, I don't know if any of the listeners will remember, that John Kearney did a play for years called There Was a Man by Tom Wright. It was written in the 60s. And he toured it all around the world, and he played it a lot in Canada and Australia and New Zealand, and I think he ended up buying a ranch or something in New Zealand and lived there for many, many years. But this was a one-man show of Burns, and I bought the rights for it maybe 10 or 12 years ago, and I was always going to try and take it out, and particularly I wanted to go to Canada and Australia and New Zealand, because Coronation Street was quite big, and I did tag it years ago as well, and that also had a following out there, and there was an audience for it, but I just couldn't get round to. You were trying to arrange it 6 months, a year in advance, maybe even 18 months in advance, and then a telly would come in, or a film would come in, and it was very difficult to plan it. And then I was introduced to Mick, and I went into. We had a coffee and we had a blether about this, and he loved the spoken word, and put some new music to it and some orchestrations to it, and and we had a wee bit of fun, and then we pitched it around. That's as far as we got. We did this. We spent a day in a studio filming wee bits of it, and we tried to get some money together to do something with it. I'd always thought that the show needed brought into modern day. And even if you go back 7 or 8 years, it was kind of in its infancy, green screen and screens, backlit projectors and stuff. It was like big canvases and stuff you used, whereas now it's all, the technology is incredible now.
Yeah.
And I think it would really work with that, because the audience, I don't think, really want to sit. We're a different kind of audience now than we were in the 60s. And I don't think we want to sit for 2.5 hours just listening to one guy talking. There wasn't really much music, so it was my intention to bring a singer in who might interact with Burns, and maybe a fiddle or a box, just to play the music. But again, we didn't get there, and this is what we did. We did these wee teasers, these 4 little
Wonderful.
shots.
We'll have a wee look at one of these teasers.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll pop that on and then we can chat about it after. That'd be great.
On the 21st day of July 1796, Robert Burns, poet, died. His funeral was a grandiose affair, attended by 12,000 people under the vigilant eye of the Regiment of Cavalry. After some delay, his body was lowered into the grave. A few straggling shots rang out, and the grave was filled in. The greensod replaced, the crowds melted away, having paid the homage and death they had withheld in life. Still, for all that, and all that, and all that.
So there we go. So that, as you said, bringing it into a kind of more modern context.
Yes. Hi. It was just the ideas, that's some of the text, obviously, from the show, and we just tried to give it a different feel, and I think I didn't hear it there again, but I think that's we talk about his funeral, don't we, in Dumfries?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's very, very poignant, all that stuff. And I think there's another wee clip where he talks about Jean Armour's pregnant at the end of his life. He's down, he's got pleurisy. I think he's at Ellisland at the time, and he's writing to ask for £5. Could you please lend me £5? Rascal of a haberdasher has said that, and it's so moving, and that's what moved Mick, and we recorded the vocal, and then he spent his time and did his magic with it. And as I say, there was a lot of interest at the time, but we just didn't get it moved on.
We actually have that clip, so I think what we'll do is just play that right now as well, and then people will know what you're meaning as well.
Right.
This was Burns in his last kind of days.
On his deathbed, aye.
For myself, I am at peace. But for my wife and children, God help them if I am taken from them. Will you be so good as to accommodate me with £10? A rascal of a haberdasher to whom I owe a considerable bill has taken it into his head that I am dying. He has begun a process to put my ruined body in jail. Mr. Thompson, do for God's sake send me £5. Forgive me for being so earnest, but the horror of jail has me half mad. I do not ask it for nothing. When I am well enough, I promise you £5 worth of the neatest songwriting.
Excellent. Very powerful.
And that was never seen. It was what we call a pitch. It was pure, you know, it was just something to offer to be suited. So it's no right, and it isn't. I was watching again with no sound, and I have to say it looked like. Do you remember Steve Strange for Visage? It looked like a new romantic video because I couldn't hear any sound.
I liked the bit where the barter system came in there. If he could get £5, he would write some neat folk songs for them.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent.
And nothing's
So-
changed. It's still £5, isn't it?
It's still a fiver.
A lager shandy.
And it's still very difficult to get anybody to lend you any money as well. This is the same thing. Oh, you're in the entertainment business. Yeah, really good. But excellent. So obviously Burns has been an influence on yourself right through your life.
Yes.
Because you grew up in Kilmarnock. First edition was Kilmarnock, am I right? Yeah, that was printed there, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first edition, the Kilmarnock edition, yes, indeed.
Yeah, the Kilmarnock edition.
And someone was on, there was a programme on, I'm sorry for the interrupting, there was a programme on Burns in Canada the other day. And there was this collector, and someone there was one, a first edition, a Kilmarnock edition, for £80,000. 80 grand. And I don't know how many years ago that was. So they're very rare, those. I think there was only 500 of the first edition. And then they went to Edinburgh, and I think they maybe did 500 in Edinburgh. You know, so he made a couple of quid when he was in Edinburgh. But he ended up with nothing. He ended up destitute. Gave it all to Jean.
Yeah.
Babies, it wanes everywhere. I mean, it literally wanes everywhere.
Yeah. And I believe when I was speaking to you the other day, and I was saying about the group in Jamaica that's done reggae versions of his songs on a themed project, that they found out he had a ticket to go to Jamaica that he didn't actually use. So
yes, yeah.
So
Mary Morrison, she waited in Greenock for him. And she died. She passed away, but I think she was a bit of a lassie though, Mary Morrison. You know, I don't think you can feel too sorry for her. I think she had a couple of irons in the fire, as they say.
I always kind of get the image as Bob Marley singing "A Man for All That" in my head. You know, with a reggae version going on would be quite
Yes.
interesting at the same
Does that
time.
exist? Have you heard that?
No, I haven't heard that yet.
No, but you just
but-
imagine
but-
that would be the case.
No, there is other things. There's other things that they've got recorded online. Really very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But I think we're all touched always by Burns. When I grew up at school, there was always the Burns poetry competition every
Yes.
year. And obviously I learnt the pipes first as Ross did. So when you're young, as soon as you're young, you get the jobs playing the haggis in at the Burns suppers.
Yes.
And get to, do you normally play quite a few, Ross? Or?
Yeah, and especially through the army as well, you get some great, like broad jobs all over the world. But I think, like Burns always, no matter what his poetry is, you can relate it to what's going on at any point in time after he's lived. You know, like a lot of his poems make a lot of sense today, and I love it. I love his poetry for that, actually. You know?
Yeah, and a lot of it's been lifted, you know, a lot of the great writers and great philosophers and modern day poets cite Burns as being, you know, he's been very forward thinking.
Yeah. When we were speaking the other day, you said you would maybe like to do a wee recital live for us. Would you be
I
up
don't
for
think I says I'd like to. I think I offered that. But yes, yeah, very well. But this will be like the Burns competition at school.
Aye, no, well, I never won it, so don't worry.
Now I've not done this. I've not done this for a number of years, but everybody knows a wee bit of it, and
I'll
do a couple of verses, shall I?
Put you on the main screen. Do as many verses as you wish.
Well, it's about 20 odd minutes long, so I won't do that much. You'll run out of time.
Well, just you keep going. Karen's putting up things like I'll judge for you. Oh yeah, very
She'll
good.
just switch. She'll cut me off, will she?
She's good with a judge for the Burns competition.
It'd be quite funny if she does that big hook and I'd like to know how she did that for Shetland. Anyway, here we go. When Chapman Billies leave the street and Druthie neighbours meet, as market days are wearing late and folk begin to tack the gate, while we sit boozing at the nappy and getting fou and unco happy. We think, nah, the lang Scot smiles, the waters, mosses, slaps and styles that lie between us and our hame, where sits our sulky, sullen dame, gathering her brews like gathering storm, nursing her wrath to keep it warm. This truth and honest tam o'shanter is he for air a nectared canter, old air, while ne'er a tune surpasses for honest men and bonny lasses. Ah, Tam, had thou been so wise and ta'en thy ain wife Kate's advice, she telled me weel there was a skeelum, a blethering, blustering, drunken bleelum, that frae November till October a market day there wasna sober. The ilka melda with a miller thou sat as lang as thou hadst sour. For every nag was had a shoe on, the smith and thee got roaring foo on. At the Lord's house, evening Sunday, thou drank wi' Captain Jean till Monday. She prophesied that later soon there would be fun deep drowned in Doon, or catched wi' warlocks in the muck by Alloa's old haunted kirk. Ah, gentle dames, it gars me greet to think how many counsels sweet, to think how many sage advices the husband for the wife despises. But to our tale, a market night, old Tam had got planted unco right, fast by an angle, blazing finely, where Raymond Swats that drank divinely, and at his elbow suitor Johnny, his ancient, trusty, druthy crony. Tam loved them like a very brother. They had been for weeks together. The night drave on with sangs and clatter, and now the ale was growing better. The landlady in Tam grew gracious, with favours secret, sweet and precious. The suitor told his queerest stories, the landlord's laugh was shady chorus. The storm without Macbeth and Russell, but Tam didn't mind the storm a whistle. Care mad to see a man so happy, Ian drowned himself among the nappy. As bees flee hame with lated treasure, the minutes winged their way to treasure. Kings may be blessed, but Tam was glorious. All the ills of life victorious. that pleasures are like poppy spread. You seize the flower, its bloom is shed, like the snow falls in the river, a moment white, then melts forever. Or like the borealis race that flicked eddy can point their place, or like the rainbow's lovely form, evanishing amid the storm. Nae man can tether time nor tide, the hour approaches tam and ride. That hour a night's black earth's the keystone, that dreary hour he mounts his beast in, and sick a night he tacks the road in, as ne'er poor sinner was abroad in. Well mounted in his grey mare Meg, a better never lifted leg, Tam skelpa on through blood and mire, despising wind and rain and fire, whilst holding fast his good blue bonnet, while singing some old Scots sonnet. While looking round with prudent cares, lest baubles catch him unawares, Kirkalloway was drawn nigh, where ghosts and howlets nightly cry. And that'll do. I'm surprised I remembered that.
Fantastic, aye.
I could have listened to that, no bother, all night. It's one of these poems, isn't it, when someone like yourself puts character into it. It's for myself, I find that really, really entertaining.
Well, so you try and lift it off the place, off the
Yeah.
page, and tell, because it's a great story, you know, and the story, it's there, you know, it happens today that the wife's waiting in the house, and where is he? He's still doing the pub. He's still, you know, that was happening in the 1700s.
Aye, it was. It must have been some. It was some guy. I remember they done. Karen and I were speaking about this the other day. They done a facial reconstruction thing of him at one point, and they reckoned he maybe wasn't quite as bonny a character as they thought he was. And I thought, well, how come
I think it was what's the famous painting? Is it Raeburn? Don't quote me. I can't remember the famous painting that's in the National Portrait Gallery. And at that period, they did loads of rouge and lips, and you know, and they made him look very, very bonny.
Yeah. But it makes me wonder how he obviously had some attraction to the women, or the women were attracted to him. If he wasn't a good-looking chap, he had something going for him.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure, but he wasn't tall, and he wasn't this, and he wasn't that. I don't know how he did it. But listen, he could write. Listen, he wrote poems, didn't he? That was obviously the thing.
Brilliant.
So lovely comments here. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh, it's magic. There's so. By the way, that's the ones we're seeing. There's hundreds going up the side here on my screen. That's just Karen's kind of popping up occasional ones here and there, and it's really, really brilliant.
Maybe one day we'll get this. I'll get this show together, and we'll get to. I'd love to get it over to Canada or down to Australia, you know, at some point, and obviously we'll play in Scotland at some point.
It's Canadian.
How big it is abroad than it is at home, the Burns Supper.
Well, isn't it funny though? I mean, everybody watching the UK, you will know that we all go nuts for Burns for a couple of days. I mean, really, you start talking about it on Saturday, and on Monday night you'll not mention it again for another. But and the expat communities around the world, places where people went and there's heritage there, they love Burns, you know, and you only look at the amount of streets that are named after him and statues that they've got to. I mean, he's well loved worldwide, you know. So, and we should be proud of him because he was a talent.
Very interesting, isn't it? Because obviously he would never have realised what he was writing at the time was going to be as famous as it was or is now. And I was doing an interview with Luke Brady from the Royal Scottish Country Dance Society a couple of weeks ago. And he happened to mention, we were talking about Burns coming up, and he happened to mention he'd been out in Japan at one point playing in a superstore kind of style thing, a promotion for Scotland. And every day when this big, huge superstore, kind of like a Harrods of Tokyo kind of thing, when it closed, they played Auld Lang Syne at 5 o'clock. That was their way of telling everybody the shop's shut and out you go. So I thought that was amazing. And I thought, I wonder if Burns ever thought his tune would be getting played to shut supermarkets in Japan someday, you know? So
I'm looking at the complete works Burns here, and this always makes me laugh because when I do Tam O'Shanter, I've always looked at this book over the years as a reference because it's complete works. And the poem that follows it in this glossary, and I don't know this poem, but could there be a better title for a poem? On seeing a wounded hare limp by, on seeing a wounded hare limp by, which a fellow had just shot at. that's the title of a poem.
Well, that's it. Yeah. He must just have observed everything and went for it. And so listen, have you got any projects coming up in the future, or are you just kind of taking it easy just now
Well, listen, we're all waiting for things to get moving again, and until we get out of this thing, and we don't know how long it is. At the moment, as you know, the theatres were unable to mix in theatres. A friend of mine's producing a TV series at the moment. They were shut down for 4 weeks. They just went back there on Monday. They filmed for 3 days and shut down again for another week. It's a stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. And who knows how long this is going to take, you know?
Yeah.
Until we get, we're getting there with the vaccines and stuff, but it could be a good way, but it's a domino effect and it's a knock down the line. I think it could be next year, but it's hard to say, isn't it? When things are really going to be up and moving again.
But listen, we could speak to you all night. It's been fantastic, and that 3/4 of an hour went by so quickly. It'd have been wonderful to have you on. I think we'll get you on some other night to talk about other bits and pieces, because we want this show to be as widespread about Scotland as we possibly can, and acting's obviously a big part of Scotland as well, huge part. So we can only thank you so much for coming on and giving us.
Well, thank you very much. And can I say that in this past year, with the year of Zoom, as they call it, this is the first thing, and I know this isn't Zoom, but this is the first time I've done anything like this, because I'm a terrible put. Even with my family, I haven't done any Zoom quizzes or anything. No. I don't like, so anyway, this is my first one. You've had my back on it tonight.
You've had it. They'll all be on tomorrow night wanting to play Monopoly or something. Anyway, listen, Gray, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, and thank you very much for having me on. It's been a real pleasure, and I love the music.
Ross, you anything you quickly want
No,
to mention?
thank you very much. I spent a lot of time this week watching all your different acting avenues that you've been through, and you're a great actor, and I look forward to seeing more of you in the future.
That's very kind. Thanks very much.
Yeah, Gray, thank you very much. Thanks again. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All the best. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, there we go. Fantastic, eh?
Great stuff.
You know, I can't remember stuff like poetry like that at all to try and recite it. I can remember thousands of tunes, but I can't seem to remember words.
No, it's different. And looking back at a lot of the stuff that he did, like a lot of his career scripts, so he mustn't be able to memorise scripts. He talked about Coronation Street for 3 years, Taggart, and different.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, so great stuff, eh?
Interesting way to go. Right, we are going south of the border just. For our next guest, we're going to, I think we'll just bring him on, Roddy Matthews down in Northumberland. Hello, Roddy. Hello. Oh, Roddy, can you hear us? Hello, Roddy.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us now?
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
I can hear you.
Hello.
Can you hear me, folks? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Just a wee bit.
Can you hear
there?
me?
We can hear you, but your picture's kind of frozen.
I'm here. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Can you hear me yet?
I think it's settled down now, I think.
Is it settling down now? Are you there, Roddy? No, maybe not. Karen, do you want to get Roddy to sign in and sign out again, maybe? And I'll play a tune. I'll play a small tune while we're waiting. That'll do.
What are you going to play?
I'm going to play Call the Yows to the Nows. It's another Burns one. And maybe My Love's Like a Red, Red Rose or something.
Classic.
There we go. A wee set of waltzes.
Lovely, Peter, lovely.
There we do. Right, I think we're still trying to connect and get a Hoddy Roddy here. He seems to have disappeared completely.
In the meantime, you'll have played at a few Burn Suppers yourself. Where's the furthest from Scotland that you played, do you think?
Yeah, I played quite a lot of Burn Suppers. I suppose the most unusual one was the one in Dhaka in Bangladesh. I played at that one for about 3 or 4 years in a row. I also played at one in Abu Dhabi and places like that. Yeah, it's amazing how you get into that wee circuit around the world and you end up in all these different places. What about yourself? Any unusual ones?
The furthest away was probably Australia. But the most obscure, I think, if you call it that, is Tunisia. And out in Beirut, had a Burn Supper out there one day, which is incredible where the expat community goes to and how good a Burn Supper is. The format of a Burn Supper is a brilliant thing, I think.
You know that tune there? Somebody put a comment up, the Eubanks and Braes.
Yeah.
I had a little pupil in one of the islands I teach on, and up in Shetland they call the banks. Hello, they call just be with you, Roddy. They call the banks. The banks are the bits that go down to the sea. And the little chap said to me, "What does this tune, the banks and braes, mean?" And I said, "Well, you know what the banks are." And he says, "Oh, yeah, yeah." He said, "That's where my dad shoves his old cars off when they're knackered." So that was the banks. Roddy Matthews, how are you?
Oh, can you hear me okay this time?
Yeah,
got
like-
you.
Can you hear?
That's better.
It's breaking up a bit down here, so I hope your friends all over Scotland and in Shetland and the Western Isles can hear me. Can you hear me,
Yeah.
Peter?
I can hear you. We can hear
That's-
you just now. No problems at all.
That's
There's-
well. There's one thing we've
People's-
all learned a lot of patience with this IT stuff. I was sitting in the backstage for ages, and then we had to reboot it all. So here I am. Nice to see you, folks. Hello.
Are you well?
I'm very well, thank you very much. Yes. Can I play your tune then, eh?
Yeah, let's have a tune, and then we'll have a blather after it.
Okay. I can't hear you, but it's nice. I hope you can hear some of that tonight. Can you?
We have your internet's jumping a wee bit, but it's fine. We can get you. We know you're there.
You can get the idea. That's
get
good.
right.
It's nice
Brilliant.
to see you. I normally play for John Caskey and for the Howth Burns Club on Burns
Yeah.
Night for the last 3 or 4 years with James Coots. And I also often play for the 1514 Club. I don't think you
Okay.
can probably see that in your camera.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Yeah, we can see it.
1514 Club for the Hoyk Burns Club. And Hoyk has got, as you probably know, huge building which has hundreds of men in for a Burns supper. And it's a great honour to play with those. And I got to play at the Burns supper at Hoyk through a wonderful friend of mine called Henry Douglas, who's the official songster in Rugby Union. And Henry's a great man who sings all the border songs and all the common riding songs. And it's through Henry that I first met young Gary Alexander, right back in the years in Bonchester Bridge, and where we sat down on the stage, and I knew that young man. And I've done some wonderful Burns suppers with these people, and I've done some wonderful shepherd suppers as well, because that's a big thing round the border, is the herd suppers as well, as you'll know, as well as playing for country dancers.
So is that a herd supper? Is that what's that entail then?
Well, it entails, it's really just a bit like a Burns night, except it's less formal. And it's basically a load of lads who breed sheep up in the Cheviot Hills. And before lambing, about March time up in Alwynton or somewhere up the top of the hills, they all get together and have a good men's party. The ladies drop them off. They have a good drink, I have to say. And they do enjoy traditional music, and they like to have a piper, and they have a few jokes, and they have a couple of comedians to tell some jokes, and that's how the night goes. And there's a few speeches, and it's a great night. Really enjoy it. And we've done a lot of Burns suppers and a lot of herd suppers. It's a great honour to get together with people. I just love the fellowship.
It's you've had a musical background your whole life, really, haven't you? Your father with the piping, and your mother with the classic.
Yeah, that's right. That's my dad. Get that. There he is.
There he
He
is.
was the personal piper to the Duke of Northumberland on the small pipes, Ross. And the Northumberlanders have a stop end to the chanter, and so there's no notes when all your fingers are on, unlike the Highland pipes and the Scottish small pipes. And they're a very old instrument, 2,000-year-old. The Romans, they think, left them here when they went to Adrian's Wall and all up Northumberland up to the Antonine Wall, and they left these wonderful set of pipes, and they've been copied, obviously, and developed with keys on them. So they look a little bit more like a clarinet with the keys down the side. And Dad was the piper for the Duke of Northumberland, and my mother was the national convener for Common na Classic, the Gaelic Harp Society, and she went all over the country, and particularly out to the outer islands in the 60s and 70s when there weren't any harps there, a dozen harps out to Barra and to places. And so, yes, I was brought up doing Burns suppers from being about 8-year-old.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because you still tour quite a bit up the west coast of Scotland. Well, when you can, I know we haven't been able to recently, but you do quite a bit up there still.
Yeah. I love being in the islands. I learned to play the fiddle. The first fiddle was given to me by Jack Armstrong, who was the famous Duke's piper before my dad, and he had a band in the 50s and the 60s, and they did casts and all sorts, and very close to Jimmy Shand, but he was called Jack Armstrong and the Northumberland Barnstormers. They played in the Royal Albert Hall and a number of other places, all over great places in the world. So he gave me my first fiddle, but I really took to playing the fiddle when I went up to, when I was about 8 or 9-year-old, we holidayed at Loch Ilot, and I heard the great Rushden fiddler Farrakhan McRae, and it just made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. And Charlie McFarlane, his son Ian McFarlane's a great fiddle player, of course, and the great Fergie MacDonald, since Farrakhan's long gone now. But I love to go back to the west and be with the people around that area and out to the islands. Got some great friends in Barra and Eriskay and Benbecula and Lewis and places. So it's a lovely, that's my heaven, is we're up there with the good band and just going around the island and you know, the beautiful beaches, just having a great gig till 1 a.m. And I just love that. So there you go. So I'm often one way or another. And I've had
the first time I met. The first times I met you, of course, was up here in Shetland. And you've been up here many times as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've really enjoyed being in Shetland, and I'd like to give a bit shout 19 Scalloway Fire Festival, Jarl score to Leslie Satrice and all the boys up there. Anybody in Shetland's listening, Mark Duncan and some of the Scalloway boys, I'm always thinking about them, and Ryan and McFerrin. We all keep in touch. And we had a great time. Very much for asking me. It was a great honour. to come up from here and be asked to do that. And
Of course.
yes, and I've enjoyed. I've got wonderful friends in Shetland. Particularly very proud to be a friend of Brian Gears. I think he's a wonderful fiddle player, but mostly a gentleman, and his family, and some other people in Shetland, like Martin Henderson, Ivor Scully, some great friends up there.
Yeah.
Don't like to mention too many names because somebody will get I didn't mention them, but as Nicol McLaren, Shetland for a friend, you have to get an operation to get separated.
That's it. But tell me, as well as all the stuff, you have been quite influential behind the hill music as well, and the traditional music and hornpipes, etc., down your way, haven't you?
That's very right. Yes, I mean, I'm very proud of our tradition. I mean, the people who play Scottish dance music know of the Northumberland tradition. Jimmy Shand and Addie Harper are always here playing. And they left a lot of tunes, like Jimmy Shand left a tune called the Whitley Chapel Barn Dance, which Ian Cruikshanks plays a lot, and that's for a little place near Hexham. Addie Harper, of course, left us the great Barrowburn Reel, which is in Coquetdale. And that's up near Rothbury in Northumberland. And, these tunes are played all over the world, but nobody really knows where they come from. But they were from great times had in the Cheviot Hills and around about in Northumberland when these bands used to come down and spend time with us. Obviously, we have a tradition with a lot of Irish immigrants and Scottish immigrants into Tyneside over the Industrial Revolution, which brought a lot of music, particularly Irish-style hornpipes. Although they say now that there's a style called the Newcastle style of hornpipe, supposed to bow every note out in the triplets, but it's debatable whether that is a style or not. But also, we had the great 19th century fiddle player on Tyneside, James Hill. And about 15 years ago, I was able to get next to the Tyne Bridge in Newcastle, where he lived on Bottle Bank, to the memory of James Hill, who wrote all the great tunes that we know so well, including the high-level hornpipe, the Beeswing, many, many others. And great thing, and I've been pleased to help my friend Pete Clark, we were just talking about before, who's got a statue up now. He's made a huge effort to get a statue up to Neil Gow in Burnham in Dunkeld. So well done, Pete. And I was involved at Pete's baby. He did it mainly. And I just think he's done a brilliant job there. So yeah, that's some of the things that I've done, Peter. And then
the James Hill,
I opened a charitable music trust.
Okay.
Yes.
See the James, just nipping back to James Hill, what was size of collection did Hill have of music? Was it quite an extensive collection? Or?
Well, he played around the pubs on Tyneside, and one of the famous tunes is called The Hawk Pub on Bottle Bank. And he, in the old days, before television, you went into a pub and the fiddler sat on a high stool, and he would sit up there and you'd pay him some money and he'd play the tune that you wanted. And fiddle players on Tyneside who would do this. And he would also perform at the races, and the Newcastle race course was very important. And the Beeswing, of course, was a racehorse that won the Grand National and the bet up, the plate at the and so these names all came through meeting people and being in these places around the pubs and around Tyneside and the river. Of course, everything happened on the river, like it did in the Clyde. All the ships were down there, and it was full of people going up and down the river. So all the music came there, and then the high level bridge was built by navvies from Ireland, and so a lot of Irish tunes came in. We have a huge Tyneside Irish centre in Glasgow as well, and there's a very big Irish population there still from the people who came over to work in Tyneside.
Fantastic. Would you be able to give us a wee tune, maybe a wee demonstration of some Hill stuff? And then we'll possibly...
Yeah, okay. Once very well known.
Once we've done that, Roddy, we'll speak about the charity, the music and that, and what you were doing. That'd be good.
Okay. There we go.
Great stuff, Roddy. Great stuff.
Really?
He wrote a lot of tunes. Those are some of the easy ones. I play the Steamboat, obviously, and the Quayside. And he wrote one called The Locomotive for the train going along the top of the high-level bridge. And he wrote a number of other tunes. Another one, Trade. Nothing to do with trade. It was the name of another pub.
Roddy, there's lots and lots of comments coming in that we can see here, and Karen put some of them up onto the screen, but everybody said they're thoroughly enjoying listening to you, especially speaking about the history, tunes and things, and some very nice comments on your playing and how when you play in a band, you seem to give it a good lift. So it's great.
Well, that's very nice people to say. Traditional, the rants. Have you heard of the rants, people?
No, on you go.
Have you heard of ranting? Well, ranting is like the Shetland and they do the back step. Well, a rant is like a front step. You go forward, 1, 2, 3, one basic 4/4, but it's a style of dancing in Northumberland that isn't anywhere else. And you'll see people, if they come to Shetland, they'll rant while they're dancing the Gay Gordons. You'll see it, 1, 2, 3, south.
Yeah, okay.
But it's a style, and we have some lovely tunes. I'd like to play a traditional tune for you now from the Windshield, called Windshields. Windshields is up the Roman wall, up Hadrian's Wall on the very high crag. Windshields is one of the highest points on the wall. It has a fantastic view and an old rant from Northumberland. Okay?
Great. Super duper.
There we go. There's some Northumbrian rants for you.
Fantastic.
Lovely.
There's people, we're getting comments on here and people saying things. I love the Morpeth rant and things like that. So it's great.
The second tune there was called Nancy, which was written by a great piper called Tom Clough from up the North Tyne. And the last tune was called Tom Cowing's Rant, which was written by Ian Holmes, of course, from Dumfries. but he came to Northumberland to play a lot, and he wrote that for in Hexham, who runs the Hexham Accordion and Fiddle Club. He's a lovely man, and that was written for him by another Scottish man who came to play Northumberland tunes in Northumberland for the dancing.
Brilliant. Unfortunately, we've got a wee bit of a jump tonight on the internet, and somebody had said, "Oh wow, we're really appreciating Roddy's fiddling, but it is jumping." Unfortunately, folks, it's just the internet. But you can appreciate what a good musician Roddy is. Sorry, Ross, you were going to ask a question there, I know.
No, I was going to ask if there was times of the year that these tunes are celebrated, or if they're like harvest tunes or gathering tunes, or are they celebrated at a certain time of the year?
I think, yeah, I mean, we always had, like any agriculture, hairst suppers, like you would call them in Scotland, and the same down here. I mean, the tradition north of the Tyne, we're north of Hadrian's Wall, south of the border, but we're really, if you drew a straight line from the Solway straight across, and a lot of people think that, and the traditions come across through the hills, and a lot of the people who've worked in agriculture. I mean, Jim, our friend Jim Nichol, who's a great musician, and his family are great musicians. His father was a shepherd down in. Johnny Nichol used to speak, "Why, hey man, like, guitars." And of course, Jim was born Crawford John with you and spoke just like you.
Yeah,
so that's common in the hills. The traditions go across.
And we were actually 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I took the family down and we stayed at Stone Hill in a cottage, and that's where Jim came from and where his father Johnny originally was from. Well, when I knew him, he was originally from down your way, but then moved up. Yeah, he played the box himself as well. He played the 3-raw box of it as well.
Whole family of music.
Yeah, it's good. So
there's a lot of tradition around the hills.
Tell us about the Charitable Music Trust that you've been working on.
Yes. About 6 years ago, just before I sold my big estate agency business, here's the joke for all of your listeners. I used to have a big estate agency, and when I used to stand up, they used to say, "Here he is again." So there you go. Got that one out of the way tonight. But just as I sold that, it was a very big business. It was all over Tyneside, right up the Scottish border and Cumbrian border, with many offices and 140 staff. I was very proud of it. It was a very good. Just as we sold that, we got some money in, so we decided we'd buy an old church near Rothbury in Northumberland, in a beautiful village called Thropton, an old Presbyterian church, and we'd make it into a music centre, and we'd open a charitable trust called the Coast. And I have 3 other trustees with me: Richard Johnston, who works for Northumberland County Council Music Service, and Di Jevons, who comes to Shetland, and Neil Strike, who's a local minister. And they act as three. And it's now a recording studio where there are 2 engineers who do different studios, one called Ian Stevenson, who played in the Catherine Tickell Band and Baltic Crossing, and has been to Shetland many times, and the other Adam Foster, who does music. And they've recorded some fun. I mean, the Elephant Sessions, who won at Celtic Connections, the CD of the Year about 2 years ago, recorded in Brompton. Yeah, so very good studio there. And it's costing. My wife says it was a white elephant, but we've really enjoyed it. And we do concerts every 1 or 2, once a week, or once every other week there's a concert, but there's none at the moment, obviously. And so that's been a great, all the people that go there, and some great people who give their time free. I mean, it's the people who give their time free. Di and Mike Jevons are wonderful stewards, and they do it all for nothing because they love the music. And she plays in the Scottish Fiddle Orchestra. Wonderful people around, aren't there? And then recently, just before lockdown, I get very friendly with a man called Matt Bramhall. And Matt is a wonderful musician who plays keyboards for people in his gig. When we lost a few gigs up around Scotland in accordion and fiddle clubs, he lost a gig in Glastonbury. I mean, that's how big he is. And he plays for Kylie Minogue, and Brian Adams, and Catherine Jenkins, and some big names, you know. Got to know him through Hope Church in Galashiels, who do a good work to help a lot of people with problems. But Matt is a wonderful man, and he lives in Galashiels, but is often in London. And he decided in lockdown he'd like to get on and open a music. My wife and I bought a building in the middle of Galashiels, an old dental studio, and we've spent a lot of money. And Matt has just worked his socks off. And in a time when other people, some of them are saying, "Oh, we've got no gigs," Matt, bless him, has got over 120. And the Borders School of Music is doing really well. They teach mainly three things. They teach keyboards, guitar, and drums, because that's what the youngsters want. But there is a demand for fiddle lessons as well and things. So other things will happen when lockdown finishes. But it's been a great somebody. You know, I love being the person behind somebody who can do it, because I can't teach, but he can. And, you know, I think as you get to an age, I mean, I'm 60 this year, and, you know, to get to a time when you can actually help other people, bridging the young. But sadly, so many older people sometimes want the limelight for themselves, but not me. I want to see the youngsters get the limelight. I want to see them coming up and doing really well. And that's what we want, because that's the future. You know, we're the old men now. Now you look and see all these 15 and 20-year-olds, and they're brilliant.
I think Ross and I are in total agreement with you with that one. That's what we're doing as teaching, and we want to see the young coming on all the time. It's we're the old guys now, and we want to see what the new guys can do. That's my plan.
Is the traditional scene? What's the traditional scene like? You'll have seen the years tick by and be able to see the difference in the way it's going. Is there still quite a healthy traditional scene for the young people to take up these instruments?
We have an advantage down here because we have the Sage in Gateshead, and out of the Sage in Gateshead Cakes, which was, you might have heard of the arm for folk music, and you know, a lot of people, Katrina MacDonald from your part of the world, Peter, and Catherine Tickell, and some well-known musicians, Alistair, are involved in that, and they promote a lot of young people doing things. It's very different. I think there is a generation gap, which is difficult to fill. I've tried to fill it, but some of the older people just want to hear Jimmy Shan style music, and it's style music, and play some of it. But that's what they want, and the young people want more progressive stuff, just as the same in the Western Isles with the, you know, Tyree Music Festival and Oban Live. They want something more progressive. But it's trying to get the two together. You know, I think I realized that some people want something different from what the others want. But yes, it's burgeoning. It's burgeoning everywhere because everybody learns now. You know, in the older generations, not everybody had the chance of an instrument or to learn. So yes, we'll hear in Northumberland through the music service. Can I just say, Northumberland County Council Music Service is brilliant, and they have a Ceilidh band which meets at the Cokerdale Music Trust, and Richard Johnson and his team do a great work there. And up in Shetland, you've had their young musicians up with the team, with the border ranters, they call them. And, you know, it's really encouraging. And you've got, we can't compete with Shetland because you turn out a crop of every single year. You know, not a lot of 15-year-olds are all geniuses. There you go.
I remember coming down on the return trip to see the ranters, and we played Anik at the Playhouse, and they played one of my tunes. And I was so pleased. I was so chuffed to bits to hear them playing one of my tunes. It was just incredible. It was great fun. And it was so nice to see them enjoying themselves, all the youngsters. But do you fancy giving us another quick tune before we're going tonight, Roddy?
Yeah. My mum, as I said, my mum was a national convener for Common and Classic, and she's an honorary member. She's the only honorary lifetime member of the Classics. And her great friend Isabel Meares has just been awarded the MBE, and the pair of them did everything together. And she got an MBE the same time as Margaret Robertson. Peggy MacDonald's got one. So here's a couple of songs, with that Isabel Meares always singing on the harp. There we go. There's a few more Burns tunes for you. I'm trying to remember them off the top of my head.
Well done,
You'll
Roddy.
always find that Burns last on the program, you have to tick off all the ones that other people have played before. So I was ticking off the ones you played and the ones you played.
Try and get on first if you can.
I'd love to ask you a question before you go, Roddy. And one of the duties that your dad, you mentioned your dad was the piper to the Duke. And I looked at one of the duties that the piper had, and it was piping at the Shrove Tuesday football match. And I looked
That's
at
right.
very old footage of black and white footage of this match, and it looks like there's at least 100 aside. It doesn't look like a convention.
It's the Alnwick Lads, and there's a wonderful tune called The Lads of Alnwick. But the Lads of Alnwick have played the Shrove Tuesday match for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's a bit of a scrade in the pastures. Now, what happens is the ball is taken by the secretary to the top of the Barbican Tower, which is the one with all the heads on, where all the Scots used to try to get in and the English would keep them out. And he gets a ball and he throws it. Now that is supposed to be a Scottish head. And then they take it down and it's piped by the Duke's piper. It's a big honour. It's piped down with the committee to the pastures where the River Allen runs through the middle of the one side is on one side and the other on the other. And it ends up in the river. And it's a question of who scores on which side. And so it's a big scrum down. The rules are not like normal football. It's hands and everything and throw the thing around. But there's exactly the same sort of game, the Scottish side of the border, where they have uppies and doonies and they throw a ball in that's supposed to be an English heat. And it's got ribbons of red, like blood coming out of it, tied down. So they get their own back at the handbar game in Jed once a year, where they turn out and play for the handbar. So the Percy family of Northumberland and the Buccleuch family of Scotland are interrelated. The Duke that my father played for his sister was married to the Duke of Buccleuch. So if you are and walk along the divide between Scotland and England, you'll see on one side an N for Northumberland, and on the other side, not S for Scotland, but B for Buccleuch. And those two families are interrelated and own a lot of land, and in Scotland, obviously still the biggest landowner in Scotland. So they're looking after it very well, and we all play our little part somewhere around the Borders. But the Borders is a very, very special place. I've had some wonderful, wonderful nights. One of the few places left that's still unpolitically correct. A bit like some of the islands in Shetland, Peter. You'll understand what I mean.
Yes.
But you can say anything and do anything, and you can have a good laugh about it, and nobody gets too upset about it. Because like everywhere else, there's lots of people coming in, and they don't really quite understand us quite the same as we know how we behave, and we know it's just a joke, and we don't make it, it's not racist or it's not hurtful to anybody. It's just a joke way of going on. And I hope it never dies. And I hope it never dies in Shetland, the outer islands, and in Benbecula and everywhere. Because we've got to be able to have a bit of fun in this world.
There's a couple of people who Orkney got in touch there to say, and we've got the Baw in Kirkwall, which is, like the same kind of football game as the Uppies and Downies. So they're all speaking about that on the comments here. So listen, Roddy, thank you so much for coming on tonight. There was somebody said we'll try and get you on another night when the internet's better, and I agree with that, because it would be wonderful to hear the total quality of you playing. But folks, remember, search for Roddy online as well, and grab his CDs if you can get a hold of them, and you'll hear what a master craftsman he is of his instrument. And Roddy, thanks so much for giving up Sunday night to come and be with us.
Very welcome. Nice to see you as well, Ross. All the best, Peter. Cheerio.
Thanks, buddy. Take care. Stay safe. There we go. No, that's fantastic. And sorry about that, folks, with the internet connection there. It just wasn't very good tonight. But we do everything we can.
I think that's the internet for you. I know through teaching this week it's been worse than it was previous. So
yeah, same with us. Same with us. It's just, I think it's because there is so many people using it now. I just think it's. But
a couple of quality guests, top.
Oh, wow. Absolutely amazing. Roddy, I agree. Somebody said, can you not get him on some other night? We will. We'll get him back some night when we get a good internet. Because Roddy's absolutely fantastic too. He's a great historian, and it's great when you hear the stories behind the tunes. And one thing, we never touched on there at all tonight, we didn't have time, was he's an amazing composer. He has composed loads of tunes, loads and loads of good tunes, and he has music books which I would highly recommend to people to take up some of Roddy's tunes. And he's got some beautiful slow airs that he's written, absolute beauties. Yeah. So what's on for the rest of the week? Anything good?
Well, I'll start the week teaching again. I'm building a bit of an office, so hopefully be teaching in the next fortnight out of there, and probably doing tunes in the house from there in the next fortnight. So
all right, okay. Yeah. We were in the sea this morning. Karen and I were in having a swim today again, and when we left the house, it was 1.5 degrees. So we just went in and had a quick swim, and I think I'm actually still thawing out, to be honest.
Yeah.
Vi Todd just put a comment on there as well, just saying that Roddy's new CD is absolutely excellent. So there's recommendations, folks. Go on and check out Roddy's stuff online. I asked him about a website, and he said it wasn't working very well just now or something. So
yeah, he's got a great book of music I was trying to buy off of there today, and it said to try again. So that's definitely worth trying again. So if like me you couldn't get through, try again later. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah. Well, I can only say brilliant guests, just like you said there tonight. We've had Gray O'Brien and Roddy Matthews, fantastic, interesting people. And as I said earlier, we've not had an actor really on the show yet.
Yeah.
But that was very, very interesting and wonderful to see him, an actor at work, basically, when he done his thing there.
And actors going through the same process we are, where they're
Yep. Yeah. Entertainment business. Finding it very difficult. So, anyway. So, somebody said their thanks to Obedy. There's too many to mention. You're right. There's everybody.
Have you got any other online Burn Supper stuff to do?
Oh yes, tomorrow night I'm on from 9:30 to 10:30 on Music from Scotland channel, live on Facebook. So if anybody's stuck for something to do, I'll be on there. It's got a great lineup tomorrow. Andy Chung's on too, and Ewan Gallow on as well, and Murray Cowie that we had on the show once as well. We're all on doing an hour tomorrow night, so it should be plenty of entertainment going on tomorrow night, and it's all free. Just join us. It'd be great.
Grab your haggis, grab your nips and tatties, and join Peter.
And I can assure you, I will not be trying to even think about reciting Tam O'Shanter. I'll leave that to the professionals. So, I think Davy Vernon said in a comment earlier on, remember we had Davy on as a guest once as well. And Davy, remember, he's got this fantastic memory.
Yeah.
And I heard him, I noticed him saying he's going to be reciting it tomorrow on the internet as well. Well, if it's anything like everyone else he remembers, he'll have no problems remembering that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's that. So
Tam everywhere, man.
I've been everywhere, man, with Tam. Very good. Right, well, listen, thanks very much for tonight. Nice seeing you again, Roscoe.
Yeah,
and we'll catch up, and we've got two great guests for you next weekend again. So we'll announce that to you on Wednesday night. So remember, we'll see you Wednesday night live, 8:30. No neeps in the co-op today, Ross. Is that the
click and collect, Martin? What's wrong with you? Come on,
Martin. There was a few neeps I saw up at the supermarket today, and they were nothing to do with vegetables.
I tell you what, you should be in the car park. It's full of neeps.
Neeps everywhere.
How you doing, John?
Anyway, on that, right, brilliant, folks. Thanks very much.
Fantastic.
Join us on Wednesday to find out who the guests are, and remember, we're on every week live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. At 8 o'clock on Sundays, 8:30 on Wednesdays. See you then, folks. Take care, stay safe out there, whatever you're doing, and look after each other. That's a kind of important one. Okay, so it's good night for me.
Good night from Peter.
I got that right the last couple